So a few weeks ago, I made a bold claim about doing a Champions League preview before I remembered that I was going to be on the road for 2 weeks with Coca-Cola, beIN Sports, and for the FIFA 18 game capture event in London. So I completely dropped the warm balls on making it happen, and then match day 1 came and went. And I talked to all of you about, like, should I do it, should I not do it? And you guys were like, F it, let's still do a preview. And so here we go with Group A, which includes Benfica, Manchester United, Basel, and CSKA Moscow. And we're gonna go in alphabetical order and start with Basel, who unfortunately have made way too many changes from last season for me to believe that they're gonna do well in this competition. On top of that, they replaced their manager, which isn't always easy. And maybe even more importantly, they lost living legend Matias Delgado to retirement, who was a tremendous leader for the club both on and off the field for many years, and his absence has shown, especially in their current form, where they're winless in their last 3 games, and when they lost 3-0 to Manchester United on match day 1. Then Benfica comes in on the back of a round of 16 appearance in the Champions League last season, and winning their 4th straight league title, and they kept their core intact, so you think an improvement, even to the quarterfinals, is achievable, which I might have predicted before match day 1, but since they shockingly lost at home to CSKA Moscow 2-1, I think this shit is wide open. Which brings us to CSKA, because I think they saw the overall strength of Group A and thought, you know what? We might just have a chance to get out of this group, even though they'd be saying that in Russian. And now with 3 valuable points snatched from Benfica and one of the hardest places to play in this group, I don't know. I think they could do it. And finally, that leaves us with Manchester United, who must have been laughing to themselves when they saw their group like, even though he's not with the club anymore, David Gill definitely fixed the group stages again for us, right? He's the Galluminati. And UEFA definitely wants us to go through like always. I mean, look at our last 10 group draws in the Champions League. Look at it! And I'll wait until you guys find one other big club in there. And I'm gonna do some music while I wait. So easy prediction alert, United's gonna go through, and I think CSKA is gonna join them. But I don't know if I would have said that if I didn't have the benefit of match day 1. Probably would have gone with Benfica. And that's just me being honest. But now, I think it's United and CSKA. And in Group B, it's Bayern Munich, PSG, Anderlecht, and Celtic. And do I need to even bother previewing this one? Because we all know Super Bayern and Extra Super PSG are gonna get through this group, even if they had lost in match day 1, which they didn't anyway. Not that they would have, but they did. So the real excitement's gonna come from who's gonna finish on top of the group and who's going to get that Europa League spot. For the top of the group, as much as I like the steady calm of Carlo Ancelotti as manager and the talent on his team, there's just something not right with Bayern this season. Maybe it's a chemistry issue with the manager and his players, or the players and the upper management, or between players themselves. But you know there's something brewing when the always happy Thomas Muller starts complaining about not playing enough, and when super professional Robert Lewandowski calls out the board publicly for not making more signings. And these are just 2 examples that are not a recipe for success. And then once you factor in how much better PSG is this season, I think it's clear who's gonna win this group and who's gonna get second. As for who's gonna qualify for the Europa League, well, I'm sure Celtic manager Brendan Rodgers thinks that if Jose Mourinho can take the competition serious and win it, then he can too, because he's Brendan Rodgers, best manager in the world. And because Anderlecht can't compete with the magic that Celtic seem to conjure up in European competition, specifically at Celtic Park, I think the Hoops are gonna do just enough to get into the Europa League, where they will probably lose in the quarterfinals. Yeah, that sounds about right. And now in Group C, we have Chelsea, Atletico Madrid, Roma, and Qarabağ. And heeding my alphabetical rule that I said at the beginning, let's start with Atleti. They have their homegrown core of talent like Koke, Saul, and Gabi, who really drive the team. They are definitely the engine. They have a superstar striker, Antoine Griezmann, and honestly, I don't know why I'm breaking down every single position, because they have quality in every spot on the field that fights and scraps its way to get results under an experienced manager in Diego Simeone. And they have a brand new stadium, and oh, by the way, they've been in 2 of the last 4 Champions League finals, so I think they're gonna be just fine getting out of this group. And then there's Chelsea, who decided to take a year off from all European competitions to win their domestic league last season. So it'll be interesting to see how they handle multiple competitions, because before Europe even started, they've shown some vulnerability already, especially without Eden Hazard healthy. So if they can stay fit, I know they have the quality to go on a good run. But, and humor me here, that already feels like a big if this season, doesn't it? Are we on the same page? I think it does. As for Karabag, the Azerbaijani champions made history just by making it into the group stages, so hopefully after they lose all 6 games in the group, they'll still feel proud because it's a huge accomplishment. And finally, let's talk a little Roma, 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 because they just seem like one of those teams. And this has been proven historically after Francesco Totti started playing for them, that they do exactly what you expect them to do. If the group is a little weak, they're gonna get through and then they'll probably lose to a team that you think they should lose to in the knockout rounds. And if the group is a little strong, then they're gonna finish 3rd and head to the Europa League instead. And when you look at this group right here, right now, I think it's a little too strong for them. So I expect Chelsea and Atletico to go through and Roma to get 3rd. And in Group D, it's Juventus, Barcelona, Olympiacos, and Sporting Clube de Portugal. And I'm going with Barcelona first, not only because they start with a B, and because of this fun fact where they've won 4 out of the last 12 Champions League trophies, while their rivals Real Madrid have only won 3 over these last 12 years. But because I want to see if they can pull it off this season without Neymar and now a hurt Ousmane Dembele, an aging midfield in Iniesta and Busquets, and a defense that wasn't very strong to begin with. So I mean, honestly, if Messi wins the league or the Champions League this season, I think it has to go down as one of his greatest accomplishments. Now moving on to Juve, well, the last time they lost in a final to Barcelona 3 years ago, they got knocked out in the round of 16 the following season. And since they lost the final last year, when everyone wanted them to win, specifically for Gigi Buffon, because it's a trophy that he's never won before, I fully expect them to have another letdown this following season, despite the continued emergence of Paulo Dybala as a bona fide superstar. As for Olympiacos, I'm sure Greece is a lovely place to travel for these other 3 clubs in the group, so I'm sure they're going to appreciate the hospitality, Olympiacos, and the 3 points that you're going to be handing over. Was that too harsh? I think that was pretty harsh. But I love you, Olympiacos. I do, but you're still not making it out of this group. And finally, it's Sporting, who have gotten off to a terrific start in their league campaign, winning 6 out of 6 games. So for me, the Europa League spot is theirs to lose, because as much as I believe in how Sporting develops players, since they are the only club in the world to produce 2 Ballon d'Or winners, Luis Figo and Cristiano Ronaldo from their youth academy, I don't feel like they are developed enough with this squad to compete with the likes of Barcelona and Juventus, who are definitely getting out of this group. However, keep an eye on 22-year-old midfielder Bruno Fernandes, because he can play, he's got the goods. Now in Group E, we have Sevilla, Liverpool, Spartak Moscow, and Maribor. I don't know. And let's start with Liverpool, who I believe will see their fate determined by one thing and one thing only, their back line. Because with the additions of Mohamed Salah and Alex Oxlade-Chamberlain, they now have some depth if Sadio Mane gets hurt again, and once Coutinho gets back to peak form, they're going to be fine going forward. It's just the comical defending that will prove to be their undoing, just like it does in the league. But fortunately, they have a pretty manageable group that they should run over when they have teams like Maribor. However, given this group, these Slovenian giants might feel like they have a chance, like a 1 in a million chance, and that's still a chance, especially because every season there's that one team that beats the odds and gets to the round of 16. But can they really get through their group? I don't know. And then we have Sevilla, who never saw a Europa League trophy that they didn't want to win. But after making it to the round of 16 last season and missing out on winning the Europa League for a 4th consecutive year, and by getting a draw at Anfield in match day 1, it's clear these guys want to compete for Europe's biggest prize and not its sloppy seconds. And finally, let's talk a little Spartak, because as excited as they might be to be back in the Champions League after a 4-year absence, and as difficult as it might be to play against them in Moscow, they are terrible on the road. And if you can't get a result on the road in the group stages, getting through the group is gonna be tough. And yes, I know they drew away to Maribor. Can't say it right. Maribor on match day 1, but it's only 1 point in a game where they needed all 3 to truly compete with Liverpool and Sevilla, who I believe will both be going through. And now we move on to Group F, which is filled with Shakhtar Donetsk, Manchester City, Napoli, and Feyenoord. And we're gonna go with Feyenoord first, because their hope of qualifying from this group is gonna rest on the shoulders of Nikolai Jorgensen, who scored 21 goals and grabbed 11 assists as they won the league for the first time in 18 years last season. But is he enough when Napoli and City have 4 or 5 players just like him in their attacks? I'm not so sure. Or if you let John Stones score 2 goals on you on match day 1. It's embarrassing, Feyenoord. And speaking of John Stones, his club, and you know what, it's probably more his manager, learned a lot from this competition last season, specifically in their 2-legged goal fest loss against Monaco. But he solved, I feel like, those issues. He went out and bought 2 of Monaco's best performers in Bernardo Silva and Benjamin Mendy. And then he paid a shit ton more to shore up their defense. So City should cruise through this group. Or maybe not cruise through the group, because Napoli are a team that you can look at and see their current form and their talent and legitimately say that they are better than they were last season. And after surprisingly holding on to Lorenzo Insigne, Dries Mertens, and Jose Cayón over the summer, they are definitely one of the most exciting sides in Europe at the moment. But they lost to Shakhtar Donetsk on match day 1, so maybe I'm wrong. Maybe Napoli has a little Liverpool-itis where their attack is 3,000 times better than their defending. And with Shakhtar boasting the South American duo of Marlos and Ferreira, who have combined for 7 league goals so far, and with their 3-point lead over Napoli firmly in place, maybe they can be the surprise team in the round of 16 this season. Or not. And I'm actually betting on or nots, because have you seen Napoli this season? They are so good. And so is City, who will get through as well. And now we head to the G's in the G Money group: FC Porto, Monaco, RB Leipzig, and Besiktas. And Besiktas is up first, who, thanks to a weirdly funny media campaign and Ricardo Quaresma's poll, they've been able to get lots of experienced players to come to the club, like Alvaro Negredo and Pepe, who never saw a 2-foot that he shied away from. So they'll be looking to get one step further than they did last season when they finished in 3rd place in the group stages. And an away win at FC Porto on match day 1 was, I believe, a sign of good things to come. And speaking of Porto, they've been awesome in their domestic league this season, which they need to be so that Benfica doesn't win the league again. But that could throw off their focus on the Champions League, which was evident after they lost at home to a team they should definitely be beating if they want to advance. So I don't think this is where their heart is this season, and I think they're okay with it because they want to win their league instead. Which leaves us next with Monaco, and I totally went out of order because M actually comes before P and I'm an idiot. Anyway, with regard to Monaco, they are fresh off reaching the semifinals last season, though they lost a lot of key players that helped them get there, namely Kylian Mbappe, who scored so many clutch goals for them in this competition last season. However, given that they still have a lot of class in their side and Falcao leading the front line, they are going to be fine until they reach the knockout rounds. And then we will see just how good they really are. Just like RB Leipzig, because I'm not sure anyone knows how good they're going to be this season, including their own manager, because they are currently experiencing the most exciting period of the club's history after stunning the Bundesliga by finishing 2nd last season and automatically qualifying for the Champions League. Though, there has to be a few concerns about whether they can successfully combine handling the Champions League with their Bundesliga schedule, and I feel like they have a relatively thin squad. So despite grabbing a point against Monaco on match day 1, which was impressive, I think Besiktas is better equipped to manage multiple competitions. So I think Besiktas and Monaco are going to go through. And finally, it's Group H, the group of death, with Real Madrid, Tottenham, Borussia Dortmund, and Apoel. And no, not Apoel. Sorry, Apoel. The only exciting thing about you guys is your goalie's name, Boy Waterman. True story. That said, I suppose Apoel will play an important role in all of this because this group could come down to goal difference. So that Boy Waterman better be warmed up because he's going to have a lot of action these next few months. Especially against Borussia Dortmund, who set a record for the most goals ever in the group stages last season, and who look even tidier as a team under new manager Peter Bosz, especially on the defensive side of the ball, than they did at any point under manager Thomas Tuchel. And with Bosz leading Ajax to the Europa League final last season, he definitely has the experience and know-how to get a squad through a competition like this. Also, Dortmund won their group that had eventual champions Real Madrid in it last season, and the confidence that comes from that truly matters. I just wanted to add that. Like we've done it before, we can do it again. Let's go. And speaking of Real Madrid, they are the back-to-back champions, and their best player lives for playing his best in the biggest games. And it doesn't hurt that when fully fit, they are easily the best team in Europe until proven otherwise, and nobody's proved otherwise. And I'm not going to say yet whether they're going to win it again. Not yet. But they will definitely be getting out of this group. Easy prediction alert. Which leaves us with Spurs, who would do very well to take over the mantle as the club from North London who does great to get out of the group, only to lose in the round of 16. And honestly, I think that's what's going to happen here, especially after they got the full 3 points against Dortmund in match day 1 at Wembley Stadium, which was a challenge for them on a lot of different levels. So yes, I said it. Spurs are going to get out of this group with Real Madrid. Sorry, Dortmund. So that is it. I am done. Actually, I'm not. So what do you guys think? Am I going to nail all these predictions or what? Last season, I got 13 out of 16 right in my group stage predictions, which I thought was pretty good. But I get the sense I'm going to do even better this time around. So let me know your thoughts down below, and then we can come back and revisit them once the group stages are over. Later.